You're listening to Later with Mo Kelly on demand from KFI AM 640.
We're going to talk about Snow White, why the movie failed. And I think it's more than one reason, but it's emblematic of a larger discussion of what we expect out of movies in the 21st century, especially this time in America. And before we get to that conversation, I want to seed it, if you will, with some general thoughts. And let me start with you, Tuala. And you don't know that I'm doing this. This is going to be very open-ended because I think it sets the stage for the discussion I think we can have or should have when you want to go to the movies or to see a movie. What are some of the prerequisites or the expectations?
That I will be entertained, that I will experience some form of escapism, and that I will walk away feeling that my money was well spent, having received both.
That's good for me. I can't add to that because that's all I really want. I don't put any extras on top of that. Mark Ronner, what are your expectations or requests going in?
It's got to be something special that I don't want to wait for. I just saw the Black Bag movie that Steven Soderbergh did. 2 weeks after it's released, it's available for streaming. And so I wanted to see it at the time because I want to support everything he does because I think he's brilliant. But if it's going to be something you can access from home 2 weeks later, no way.
Okay. For me, let me just add this. I need the escapism. In other words, I don't want to feel like it's an extension of what I do. But me, and this is only me, I don't put any extras on it. In other words, I look at the movie for what it is. I don't think about who the director is or the director's political leanings. I don't think about the casting. I want to put myself in a space where the movie and its presumed content would it be enjoyable to me. Because I know if I knew every political thought of this actor or that actress or this company or that president of that company, I probably wouldn't agree with them. And I probably would be less inclined to see a movie. I try to take movies at face value. Just what it is. If it's an action movie, if there is some sort of subtle messaging going on, okay. But I enjoy the movie as it is. And I always like to use the example of Rocky IV. Rocky IV, Sylvester Stallone, he's fighting Ivan Drago during the height of the real world Cold War. Is that propaganda? I would say so. Is that a political message? I would definitely say so. But was the movie entertainment? Was the movie escapism? Yeah. Did I ever think about the politics of Sylvester Stallone, which we all know now? No. Does that preclude me from watching a show like Tulsa King and enjoying it any differently? I didn't say more or less. Thinking about his politics. Not at all. Maybe I'm just different that way. I don't get caught up in any of that stuff because it's all make-believe. The show is make-believe. Everything that's happening, make-believe. The actor is acting. And outside of that, I don't have any misgivings. I don't have any hang-ups on that. But that seems to be an unpopular view. I would say that's the minority view. And people get caught up in the casting has to be a certain way. The politics of the perceived politics of the company needs to be a certain way, or we can't support the movie. I don't know how we got here. I don't know why we got here. I just know it makes no damn sense at all. I have never gone into a Marvel movie, for example, and said, I don't know if I can support this movie because I don't like the politics of Isaac Perlmutter, the former president of Marvel. And he has some real effed up politics. I went in to see what I thought was going to be an entertaining two and a half hours of escapism. That was it. I didn't go into the movie saying like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they got rid of Terrence Howard and replaced him with Don Cheadle. No, I went to see the movie. That was all I wanted. To this day, I don't know about Robert Downey Jr.'s politics. I don't know. I have some suspicions, but I don't know. but it's never figured into my equation of whether I'm going to see him in Oppenheimer or whether I'm going to see him as Tony Stark or Dr. Doom. That's just me. Now, there are those actors or actresses who may have something so inflammatory where it makes it impossible to ignore it. I just can't think of one at the moment.
Mel Gibson.
For some. No, wait, I'm sorry. Since you mentioned Mel Gibson, I'll tell you exactly what I think about Mel Gibson. And we've been trying to get him on the show.
Yeah.
He has said some things publicly that are pretty hard to swallow, from his anti-Semitic remarks to his racist remarks, using the N-word, talking to his girlfriend.
I remember.
And I remember as well. And this is my assumption, and it may be wrong, it may be right, it may be hard for some people to swallow. That's just my assumption. I just assume that every actor who has come in here who happens to be of the Caucasian persuasion has used the N-word.
Well, that saves time, doesn't it?
No, but I'm just saying, I'm not going to kid myself. What do I say? We don't know these people. And we got to see a glimpse of Mel in those moments, plural. And to me, it's like, not surprising at all. Because there are a lot of folks who are very nice, and then you hear, let's say, Dog the Bounty Hunter or Hulk Hogan, for example, surprises me not at all. Not at all. Does it disappoint me? Absolutely. Now, does that change my view of pro wrestling? Not really.
Still think it's real?
Yeah, that
Yeah.
too. But my point is, I guess my expectation level is set lower than others.
Well, and everybody falls in a different place on the spectrum of separating the art from the artist. I've written a number of H.P. Lovecraft inspired comics, and he was an absolutely nutso racist.
Yeah.
And one of my comics, I mocked his racism in the comic. But some people decide they want nothing further to do with him once they find that out.
Look, I'm not a fan of Mark Twain. Sorry. I've read all the work of Mark Twain and Huckleberry Finn. That's not enjoyable for me. I think everyone has their limit, but for each person, it's different.
Yeah, I think that in my lifetime, there's only been one instance that someone's behavior, something that someone said, rubbed me the wrong way in the moment
I know
that I received it.
I know who it is.
And that's someone
Mark, you know who it is, right?
Who I have not been able to forgive, even though he wasn't talking to me. It wasn't a conversation I was a part of. It was damn near even a hot mic moment. I don't know. And at this point, I don't care. I still watched, that damn John Wick spinoff, The Continental, and I thought that Mel Gibson's performance in it was okay. Mel Gibson to me is still doing Mel Gibson-esque acting to the point where I'm like, oh yeah. That is dude that said all that crazy stuff.
But you can at least point to an individual and say something specific. And it's not like you go out on social media and have this campaign like, don't watch Mel Gibson movies. And that's why I think it's something different now.
I don't have that kind of time of the day to tell people what not to watch.
Hello.
Even if I complain about something, I'm just telling you my complaints, my views, so that you have an informed idea of what I thought about something. But there's only, I think, maybe 2 films I would say don't go see because they're just that bad. Not because of anything political or what someone said, this, that, and that. No, because films like Madam Web are trash and I value your time. That's all.
Another lightning rod before we go to break, just for example's sake, Kevin Sorbo.
God.
Kevin Sorbo or even James Woods, both very far right on the political spectrum. I watch their stuff just like anyone else. I think James Woods is a fantastic actor, and whether I'm going to watch his movies is going to come down to what the movie is or his role in the movie. He plays a terrific villain. It's almost like kind of suits him.
Oh, if you don't love Cop, there's something wrong with you.
Right. So it's not about what someone believes, or at least in my world, whether it's worthy of support. But now, as we get ready to get into the Snow White discussion, we live in a world where it's about not only do I not like the supposed politics or the supposed racial casting, now I got to make sure I review bomb it and I lie about a movie I didn't even see in the hopes that I somehow damage it and damage the company. It's a little bit different. We're going to get into that next. We're going to talk about Snow White and why, among other reasons, it is going to fail to the tune of maybe $115 million loss. That's next.
You're listening to Later with Mo Kelly on demand from KFI AM 640. Welcome to Mo on the Movies.
Oh, Red.
Don't be ridiculous, darling. It's Mo on the Movies.
Kiss me.
Not a chance.
KFI Mo Kelly. We're live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app. And I'm the first to admit, I don't think I was born at the right time, maybe on the right planet, because I'll be the first to say that I don't see the world the way that most people do. I see it very differently. And when it comes to movies, my desires, my wants, my needs, my requirements are usually very different than other people. And I know movies can be very personal. That's part of the reason why we talk about them. They are not only entertainment pieces, they can be overtly political. They can be agents of change. There are a lot of movies. We can go back to newsreels and how that they were so instrumental in not only providing information, but inspiration in the management of the media aspect of a war effort. Media has power. You can talk about, and I've made mention of TV shows like Star Trek, how that was a statement on where America should be headed. You can point to any number of TV shows which have done that on varying levels. But today, it seems, using Snow White as one of many movies which have fallen into this bucket, is some sort of lightning rod for people who expect companies and creators to present movies in a way which aligns with their personal politics, not for the purpose of free expression. If we know anything from Citizens United, we know that corporations are people. Well, Disney is a corporation, and let me back up. I've always been of the opinion that creators should create and can create as they see fit. And if I don't want to support it, then I don't support it. It's not like I'm going to tear it down or tear the company down. Not everything is for everyone. I wouldn't expect everyone to appreciate Tyler Perry, but there's a market for Tyler Perry. Not everyone's going to appreciate Kevin Sorbo's movies, but there is a market, tiny one, but there is a market for Kevin Sorbo's movies. And if you want to support it, then you'll support it. But if you don't agree with Kevin Sorbo, I don't know why people will waste their time trying to review bomb, for example. Snow White has been in the news for quite some time leading up to its film release for a number of reasons. It was for the casting of Zelger as Snow White. It was in the news for the casting of Gal Gadot and her public remarks. There have been a number of controversial, public remarks made by cast members, which probably turned some audience goers or would-be audience goers against it. But I think it's more than that. I really do. There's a mean-spiritedness where seemingly we have groups of people who are setting out to be offended, who are looking for reasons to try to torpedo movies. Now, I can talk about the business aspect, and I would say you're fighting against your own interests. If you want to have movies done a certain way, well, the Disney Corporation is probably not the one you want to hurt, if only because that just means fewer movies are going to be made, fewer theaters are going to stay in business, and you're just going to have less content of any caliber out there. Twala, let me come to you. Where do you come out on this as far as Snow White?
Thus far, I have been thoroughly disappointed at how obvious the attacks against Snow White have been. The attacks against Snow White are an offshoot of the attacks against Disney being quote unquote woke. All right. Because the very first attacks against Snow White, sight unseen, was the casting of an actress that would-be viewers felt did not look like this make-believe character. Okay. As if in the land of Neverland, race matters. Because we're also talking about a film with 7 magical creatures of diminutive height who walk around singing and live in a mine and all types of magic stuff, and a girl who talks to animals and sings to birds. But you want to argue about the race of the casting of the character. So it started with that. So that was the first thing that everyone tried to glom on. And then all of a sudden, people started hearing these varying views of both Gal Gadot, who's been very, very public with her views, and her
going
views
back
are
to Israel,
views.
Hamas.
Yes, but she actually served in, the Israeli army. It's like, who do you think Gal Gadot is? That's who she's always been. Then when you see Rachel Zegler coming through on her social media posts after the film's made saying, hey, I will stand with Palestine. Then all of a sudden you turn this into an Israel versus Palestine thing. And then both sides start review bombing the film.
That's
again,
a great point. Both
sight
sides.
unseen. Sight unseen. This film is horrible. I would never waste money. This film shouldn't be shown by anyone, and then they always tag it with, free Palestine, free Israel, whatever. And it's like, what does any of that have to do with the movie? Because I know people who have actually seen the film, and everyone I know who's actually seen the film, watched it, taken their kids, they have all said the exact same thing. This is quite possibly the truest interpretation of a live action Disney film that we have ever seen, in that it's exactly like the original animated movie. It's just live action.
If you look at the original animated movie and you put Rachel Zegler side by side, tweeze her eyebrows, she is the same hue, same hair color, same cheek color as the animated version of Snow White. So it's dishonest.
Except the animated character wasn't Polish and Spanish.
I know. For those who don't know, Rachel Zegler is half Colombian, half Polish.
Well, there you go.
And they're complaining about, obviously, the half Colombian, because the Polish would have been okay, it would seem.
Yes.
These are insincere arguments because there is a group of people separate from the Free Palestine and, support Israel contingents. There's a contingent of people who believe that castings should be limited. And let's be very honest, it only works in one direction, that any person of color who's cast in a quote unquote perceived white role, because Snow White is not an actual person, so I say perceived white role, is somehow an offense. And I've used this example before. We can talk about Noah and the movie with Russell Crowe. Nobody said anything. We all know Noah's Mesopotamian, okay, from the Middle East. We can talk about Exodus Gods and Kings with Christian Bale and others who played Moses. So it only works in one direction as far as the supposed outrage. Here's where I stand, because when I get your hate mail, I need you to know exactly what I said, not what you imagine. I am all for creators choosing the cast that the creators want. Period. If you want to do a Black Panther movie, and this is the example everyone says, what if they have a white Black Panther? Knock yourself out. And if the movie does well, it does well. Now, if you happen to know anything about Black Panther, it is written into the character that it's from an indigenous place in Africa and is not touched by colonization. So there would be no outside influences. But if you want to write that story and you think you can pull it off, knock yourself the hell out. At the same time, I'm not going to lose any sleep because Snow White, which is not really having to do with the supposed skin color, because it's not an alabaster type albino woman who's walking around. If you are going to get your ass on your shoulders because a half Colombian woman is going to play the role, then stop saying, why do you guys make it all about race all the time? Because there is no legitimate argument for that. Now, if you don't, keeping this all together, if you don't want to see the movie for whatever reasons, that's your business. I'm just saying it's a silly ass excuse, and it's an insincere and a disingenuous one, because you don't apply that same standard to all the movies. I try to be consistent in all of my reasoning. Look, I don't care about the casting. Is the movie good? I don't like Disney live action movies. I've said that many times before, but I damn sure I'm not going to make a decision on it to make sure that it's racially pure. It's just crazy to me. And this is the same America who says, we need to get over this race thing. Well, do your part. It's Later with Mo Kelly. KFI AM 640. We're live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app.
You're listening to Later with Mo Kelly on demand from KFI AM 640.
If you want to weigh in on that conversation regarding Snow White, number one, you better be polite. I'll just block you. Simple as that. Also, please refer to something I actually said, not what you wish I said or imagine I said or hoped I said or just want to get off your chest. Okay? I have no problem with entering dialogue with anyone on these very complex issues at times. You can reach out to me on Threads at Mr. Mo Kelly, Instagram at Mr. Mo Kelly, or at Later with Mo Kelly, and we can have an adult conversation on these things. Twala Sharp, tell us about CinemaCon.
CinemaCon is where, damn it, we should broadcast one year, because they are giving us the teases on every single thing coming to theaters this year and beyond. I absolutely am in love with some of the teases that they've released thus far. So far, we've only seen Sony, I believe Warner Brothers, Lionsgate, but Sony kicked it off and they dropped trailers and teasers for the new Resident Evil film. Mm-hmm. It's being relaunched. All right. They also gave us the biggest Marvel news that we've seen in a minute, next to the 5-hour Avengers Doomsday trailer.
Right.
The fourth Spider-Man film has finally been titled Spider-Man: A Brand New Day, and it is coming out next year.
Oh, wow.
July of next year.
Okay, that means the film was probably already done.
Pretty much. I mean, look, they've been shooting. I think they're doing a few little reshoots, but the magic of this film is coming out in between Doomsday and Secret War, because everyone was wondering, like, why wasn't Tom Holland's Peter Parker announced? Because the events of Doomsday affect the events of Spider-Man 4, A Brand New Day, which puts him into Secret Wars.
Okay.
So I'm excited about that.
Okay.
But that's not the only Spider-Man news, because one of the greatest treats we've ever been treated to in cinema was the surprise hit of Spider-Man and the Spider-Verse, the animated films, right? Mm-hmm. We didn't know we were going to get a new Into the Spider-Verse. Well, now we know officially that we are going to get another Spider-Man film. Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse is officially coming June 4th, 2027, but it's still coming.
I have a question.
Yes.
Is there any possibility that Miles Morales may be included into the MCU as we know it?
There are rumors that say Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse is the film that actually puts Miles Morales into the MCU and introduces his way in as a live action character or person. Yes. Mm-hmm. So that one there. I know for Mark is a fan of this film or at least this franchise, but they dropped some real treats on 28 years later, and then 28 years later, The Bone Temple. I don't know anything about it, Mark, but it sounds scary. Like you'd love it.
Oh, the first two were great. I can't wait.
Well, then you won't have to wait long, because June 20th of this year, it'll be on the Ronald Report. You can go see it.
Is Danny Boyle directing this third one? Okay,
yes, he is.
So we're in good hands.
That's very important. Continuity of directors usually means continuity of vision.
And the Bone Temple one, the one that comes out January 16th of 2026, is done by Nia DaCosta, and I'm a fan of her work because of what she did with Lovecraft.
Yes.
I thought that her work on that was great.
Going back to what Mark was saying, talking about H.P. Lovecraft and the complexity of him as an individual, Lovecraft on HBO took that and flipped it on its head, acknowledging the history of H.P. Lovecraft and created a world out of that.
Yeah. And a world touched by a reality that just had people shook. Like, that actually happened?
Yep.
When talking about the Tulsa Massacre, that actually happened. Like, yeah,
it did.
That actually happened.
I think that's the lasting takeaway from that show. People who are Lovecraft fans like me were a little bit chafed that there wasn't really any Lovecraft in it, but culturally, it was a really significant piece of work.
You mean Cthulhu?
Among other things, yeah, sure.
Okay.
The great god Cthulhu. Show your respect.
The only disappointing thing for me from Sony's releases, surprisingly, was the Karate Kid's Legends trailer. I was looking forward to that.
Yeah, I'm going to see it, no doubt.
Yeah.
It just seemed, and I'm going to steal this from you, Tuwala, it seemed more Netflix than wide theater release quality.
Yeah.
I would be upset if I paid money to see Cobra Kai in theaters. It's fine on Netflix. This just had a Netflix feel. It didn't feel as big as any of the previous Karate Kid movies. It's kind of sketch how Jackie Chan's Mr. Han and Daniel LaRusso are supposed to be two branches of the same tree. I know it's all make-believe, but they're really stretching the limits of martial arts, trying to integrate two. Let me just say this real quick. When you're into traditional martial arts, which are based on cultural traditions, be it Japanese and karate, Chinese and kung fu, the philosophies are completely different based on their history and wars they fought, all that. And when you try to combine it in one form, especially in a movie, to anyone who's an actual martial artist like me, it's like, come on, you can't do that. They're just, no, you just can't. So if I can get over that, if I can suspend my disbelief there, then maybe I'll enjoy the movie. And I'll give you a perfect example. I know we got to go to break. Cobra Kai. There were all sorts of references between Dojang, which is Korean, one of the villains in this Cobra Kai, her Dojang. It was set in Korea. The whole idea that Korean martial arts was being called karate and they were referring to their instructor as sensei. It's like, no, you would never do that. It's disrespectful, especially if you know the history of the Japanese occupation of Korea. There would not be any type of blending like that. No, never.
Speaking of martial arts, real quickly, Lionsgate dropped today. Absolute bombs. It seems they are building out the John Wick universe with, yes, a John Wick Chapter 5 with Keanu Reeves returning.
All right.
He came out. He is returning. There is a reason and a way how they're going to do a prequel film, animated anime style. So an anime prequel for that. They're also dropping The Ballerina this summer. And then they're going to do a Kane film. So Kane, which is starring
isn't that Donnie Yen?
Donnie Yen, I'm sorry. Yeah, Donnie Yen. And he is going to direct it.
Not David Carradine?
And no.
Oh,
damn
sorry.
it. No.
Okay.
Although that would have been cool.
You damn right. I would have paid to see that. Does it come out with a ball gag?
Oh.
Too soon. Too soon.
Has it been a decade?
Still too soon.
Oh, man. Oh.
Did you see anything about the new David Cronenberg movie, The Shrouds?
No. And probably because I wasn't looking for it.
Okay, boy, that looks terrific. And he seems like he might actually be getting sicker in his old age. And I can't tell you how much I love it. And I'm looking forward to it.
When we come back, I'll be joined on the show by Brian Volk-Weiss. You probably know his comedy specials. He's done comedy specials with all the big names from Kevin Hart, Jim Gaffigan, Bill Engvall on down. He does the Icons on Earth series on Vice TV and so much more. We're going to talk about his latest property, RoboForce, the animated series, which is going to premiere on Tubi on April 12th. That's coming up next. KFI AM 640 live everywhere in the iHeartRadio app.
You're listening to Later with Mo Kelly on demand from KFI AM 640.
Oh, Later with Mo Kelly on KFI AM 640. Rising up from the ashes. We'll be there when the world comes crashing down. When all the other heroes start to fall, we'll heed the call. RoboForce
In 2089 Detroit, RoboForce is obsolete and has no hope of becoming heroes. That is until a mysterious code virus infects the UA-101 bots, and no one besides RoboForce can stop them. RoboForce, the animated series, premieres April 12th on Tubi, which also happens to be the most watched free TV and movie streaming service in the U.S. Producer, director, and friend to the show, and also founder and CEO to Nacelle Company, Brian Volk-Weiss is back to tell us all about RoboForce, the animated series, and I suspect the future of streaming entertainment as well. Brian, nice to have you back on, sir. How you doing?
Always a pleasure, and I do not use that term lightly. It is literally always a pleasure. I was in a good mood before I saw you just now. Now I'm in a great mood. So thank you.
Well, thank you. We had a nice conversation before this conversation off air, and it seems that my nerd credentials have expanded greatly. Very quickly, share that story.
Yeah, so I'm reading this great book now. It's funny, I know the author's name, Steve Kozak. I don't know the name of the book, but it is about the Star Wars holiday special. And I saw this name, Mo Kelly, all throughout the book. And so I was like, oh, I'm talking to him tomorrow. So I've been reading your name all over, because we're doing press worldwide international tour for RoboForce. And that is the book I am reading while on the tour.
High praise, and I appreciate you for that. But let me respond in kind. Everyone has seen your work, and I mean everyone. Some may have seen your comedy specials you produced for Kevin Hart, Jim Gaffigan, Andrew Schultz, Bill Engvall, and others. Some know your work with Icons on Earth series installments. I'm always intrigued as to what motivates you in this media space. What makes a good story to tell or show?
In my mind, anything good needs two things: heart and humor. And, you know, I always give two examples. The perfect examples of that premise are Seven, you know, the Brad Pitt, Morgan Freeman movie, and Bridesmaids. Seven, dark, mean, what's in the box, the John Doe, terrible blood, gore. There's also a lot of humor. Like a lot. Just because you got a library card doesn't make you Yoda. One of the funniest lines of all time. Conversely, Bridesmaids, people pooping in stores, getting drunk at parties, knocking over fountains. There's a lot of heart in that movie. There's a lot of pathos. The movie, yes, it's about all the girls getting back together and all the craziness at a wedding and everything. But it's also fundamentally about friendship and marriage. So you need both. I'll give you an even crazier example. The greatest movie of last year, The Beekeeper. Yes, I said it. Dumbass action movie, stupider. I get it. I dressed like him for Halloween. But it literally opens. If you watch the movie again, if you haven't seen it, it literally opens with like this pretty powerful scene between Jason Statham and
Felicia Rashad.
Rashad, thank you. Like this pretty intimate scene of them, like not sexually intimate, but like two people having coffee as the sun sets. This very powerful surrogate mother story with her surrogate son, like, and then it's a dumbass action movie. But that scene, it makes the movie work. And without that, I wouldn't be talking about it right now.
It's interesting you said that, not to name drop, but I was just speaking to the director of The Beekeeper and also his latest film, A Working Man, David Ayer, last week on this show. So it's almost serendipitous that you happen to mention The Beekeeper, but I can see where you're coming from. Let me ask you this as well. Animation has seemingly gone under a remodel over the decades. What was originally just for kids is now for adults and kids. And there's this underlying action figure market also supported by both. I need not tell you that, but why do you think animation has become ageless and its appeal ageless in many respects?
You know, I think it's because I always say, like, the beginning of what we now call pop culture, I really would argue our current definition started with Planet of the Apes. Because Planet of the Apes, it was before Star Wars to a certain degree. You could argue from a pop culture point of view, it was before Star Trek even. It was the first brand that had a movie, then another movie, toys, then a TV show, and everything else. Plates, bowls, t-shirts. So it's like we've gotten to this multi-generational stage of pop culture. I played with Bumblebee. I played with Optimus Prime. So does my 6-year-old kid last night. And I think that's a huge part of what's also happened with animation, because the same way I grew up watching Transformers and my parents didn't, when my kids got into rescue bots initially and dino trucks and now Transformers, I'm with them. Like, I'm so excited to sit on the couch with them and watch this. And that wasn't going on in the 90s or 80s, let alone the 70s. So I think that had a lot to do with the switch, the transition. And a great example of that is the original X-Men, which of course now we call X-Men 97. But I watched X-Men by myself. But in retrospect, yeah, I think my parents would have loved it too.
How do you, in your mind, effectively translate, explain, describe the subtleties, the nuances? Because you talked about rescue bots. We could talk about Transformers. We can talk about RoboForce, as we are going to, and how that occupies different spaces and people, Dinobots, people understand the subtleties, the nuances, because I know someone's listening like, my eyes are glazing over. I don't understand the differences in all these properties. How is it different? Why is it different? Why do people find themselves attracted to one, some, or all?
Not to be cheesy, but you're asking in a good way, you're asking a very simple question. So I have to give you a very simple answer. It's the writing. The writing creates the characters. And everybody talks about the world and world building and canon. You know, we use these big artsy fartsy words like I'm teaching a class at NYU. The truth of the matter is it's about characters. Like, I always have responded to Jedi Luke and Ahsoka Tano. Like, so yes, I love Star Wars as a whole, but that which brings me into Star Wars is a very specific Luke Skywalker, not even a New Hope Luke. And Ahsoka, 25, 30 years later, kept me into it. You know, I was watching Wicked for the second time with my daughter Sunday night. And like, again, this is going to sound crazy, but the whitest man ever, I relate to Elphaba. So I'm sitting here, almost 49, white guy from Queens, connecting to a black woman playing a green woman in a movie. And like, that's who I connect with.
Why do you think that connection is there for you before we go to your daughter?
I think it's because my life and career are similar to I almost said the S word, to the stuff. Not that S word. I almost said an S word. My life and career, especially my career, just happens to connect with what she's going through in the movie. My daughter, who is 11 and has not yet had her teeth kicked in the way we all do after we leave our home, our parents' home, she connects with Galinda. So again, 49-year-old guy from New York, 11-year-old girl born and raised in LA, completely different connections. But that's what makes anything great, is you have something in there for all of you, for everyone, I mean. And that's what pulls you in, a character.
Brian Volk-Weiss, we have to take a quick break, but that is a great stopping point, and we can all marinate on that during the break. We're going to talk about RoboForce, the animated series, which is going to premiere on April 12th on Tubi. I'm speaking with Brian Volk-Weiss, who's the president and CEO, friend of the show, of course, but president and CEO of Nacelle Company. More in just a moment. KFI AM 640 live everywhere in the iHeartRadio app.
You're listening to Later with Mo Kelly on demand from KFI AM 640.
Someone has determined how to hack the 101. They've been attacking people, and we have the power to stop it. You sure you wouldn't want to join? Well, that went well.
What was unthinkable a few days ago has become a pattern. Those 101s were infected with some rogue code.
You got this. You were programmed to lead. You got this. You got this.
He's got nothing!
Oh my god, Duke!
She's going to figure this out. We need to do so before she does.
Using the entire army of UA-101s to attack humanity isn't a liberation, it's a slaughter!
Fight! Fight! Fight!
KFI AM 640. Later with Mo Kelly. We're live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app. We're talking about RoboForce, the animated series, which is going to premiere April 12th on Tubi. And we're going to talk about it right now with Brian Volk-Weiss, who has been on the show a number of times. You know his work from Icons on Earth, his many comedy specials that he's produced, and animation and action figures. He does a little bit of everything. But right now, let's talk about RoboForce, the animated series. I got to ask you, Brian, sometimes I think the city of Detroit gets a bad rap. It seems like it's nothing but bad news in media when it comes to the city. RoboCop, Detroit. Assault on Precinct 13, Detroit. The Betsy, Detroit. The Crow, Darkman, Evil Dead, Detroit. You get my point. Why Detroit for RoboForce?
I'm going to give you an answer you're not even going to believe. But I will say this before I answer you. I believe the Detroit that we showed is positive. You won't see any burnt out buildings or any of the other stuff. But here's why it's in Detroit. It's funny to me you started with this question. We were this close to buying RoboCop. So I had found out while making Movies That Made Us, I was in Dallas, which is where RoboCop was shot for the most part, with Ed Neumeyer. And Ed Neumeyer over dinner mentioned this wacky thing called the Sonny Bono Law, which meant the rights were going back to him in about 9 months. So we made an offer and we were getting close to acquiring RoboCop. And while that was all going on, we were developing, I hope I don't confuse everybody with all the robos, RoboForce. So I said to myself, when we get the deal done for RoboCop, we will have RoboCop and RoboForce work together. Well, I don't know if you've heard of this company. You seem smart, Mo, but maybe you don't know this. There's a company called Amazon. And this is going to blow your mind. They got more money than I do. They bought MGM while we were negotiating. So when I thought we were about to get the deal done, Amazon came in, bought MGM. And remember, I told you they got more money than I do. Mm-hmm. So we ended up not getting RoboCop. But we were already in pre-production on RoboForce. So we left it in Detroit.
Let's talk more about RoboForce. Set the stage for the story for me.
So the story of season 1, we took from real life. What happened in real life was the toy company that made RoboForce came up with this huge, crazy idea for the biggest toy launch of all time, RoboForce. Most toy lines launch with 7 characters. RoboForce launched with 32 characters. Most toy lines, first wave, start with maybe 1 vehicle. RoboForce started with 3 vehicles. You never have a play set for a first wave. The biggest play set you've ever seen, of course, except for the USS Flag. They go to Toy Fair. And for anybody who doesn't know what Toy Fair is, imagine like the Sundance Film Festival for toys. But imagine if there were no other film festivals, only Sundance. That's Toy Fair. So they go to Toy Fair, 1983. They're like, look at this. Isn't this great? And everybody thought it was great. Toys R Us made the biggest order in the history of Toys R Us, 2 million units of RoboForce, wave 1.
Wow.
You might be asking yourself, well, if it was such a big deal, how come nobody really knows what RoboForce is, right? That announcement was on a Tuesday. Guess what was announced on Thursday? Transformers. So Transformers comes out. Destroys RoboForce. Sticking with the same comp, RoboForce, Toys R Us order, 2 million, goes to 250. KB had done 500,000 order, goes to 50. Destroys RoboForce. Not only that, bankrupts the company that made it. So we took that story and made it our DNA. So at the beginning of RoboForce, essentially, you see RoboForce getting announced to the world like, yay, we're the best. We're going to save the world. Across town, an evil company, Utopia Aegis, they announced their new robots, the UA-101s. The UA-101s are much better than RoboForce, and RoboForce is decimated. So for 15 years, the members of RoboForce have miserable lives, horrible jobs. They fall apart. They get into fights with each other. It's terrible. Then, believe it or not, the UA 101s, they get hacked, they get corrupted, and guess who is the only force that can stop the UA 101s?
RoboForce. Let me guess.
You got it. Wow. We can invite you to Jeopardy. So that's our story. So the story takes place 15 years after they had their teeth kicked in and their shins broken and all of that. And this is what I can promise anybody who watches. It's a redemption story. There is not a single character at the beginning of the series that's the same at the end. Heroes become villains, villains become heroes, and you're watching everybody evolve in a way that's really, I think, typical of life in that it's your experiences, going back to Wicked, it really is your experiences that make us. And we show that RoboForce rising basically all but from the grave, they learned a lot in those 15 years of being in the wilderness. And now they're finally getting their shot at being heroes.
My time is run short with you, Brian Volk-Weiss. Very quickly, tell me the significance of this being on Tubi and the future of streaming as you see it. You have that free model where everyone else struggles seemingly with charging a subscription. Why Tubi?
So we were very lucky. We financed RoboForce and then we took it out to the market. So it was obviously a little risky. But we got a bunch of offers and we went with Tubi because they remind me of like the early days of streaming in that they're very aggressive in a good way. They're very confident and they really pick their battles carefully. And one of the battles that they picked was that they are free. So they've made it so easy for anybody to sign up. And that's part of the reason, I think, other than Netflix and YouTube, I think Tubi is number 3 overall and number 1 as it relates to the rise in percentage of all the viewers that they have. So we wanted to be with a partner that was kind of young and scrappy like us and like would fight to win and not just be like, oh, let's put it out and see how it does. That was our goal. And we have had no better partner.
We can't have a better guest. Brian Volk-Weiss. RoboForce, the animated series, premieres April 12th on Tubi. Brian Volk-Weiss, thank you so much for always coming on and sharing your work with us. And, it's not going to be the last time, so I look forward in advance to our next meeting.
As always, Mo, thank you for having me.
It's Later with Mo Kelly. KFI AM 640. We are live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app.
The more you know, the easier it is to avoid the idiots around you.
KFI.
And KOST HD2.
Los Angeles, Orange County.
Live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app.